Okay, so we're going to listen to Adam's song next. Why don't you wave at him and tell him?
Hi. I'm
Adam.
Adam. Nice to meet you, Mr. Cawley.
Oh, we can't call him Mr.
That's my father's name.
Call me Mark.
So this song's called What You're Made Of.
Hey, can you tell me a little bit about the song?
Yeah. So this song is called What You're Made Of, and it started off as a experiment in the freshman year dorm room, and we actually finished it sophomore year last year, and I started showing it to people, and they told me, "Oh man, this is pretty cool, but the lyrics are kind of whack," and I trust the opinions of my peers, so I kind of went to several friends to try and rework it, and what you're about to listen to is the first verse and the chorus, and that's pretty much all we've mixed and balanced so far. So
Great.
So just give us a holler or a wave when you want me to stop it.
it's just like a minute and a half, but if you want to stop it for me.
Okay, so.
We'll do it all.
No, that's a friend of mine.
Okay, I mean you're right in Popland. I mean that's if you're into pop music, that's where you should be writing, right where you are. Good sensibilities, good hook. Careful of, when it hit that chorus piece, careful of the tempo. The tempo kind of changed really abruptly.
Really? Okay.
Which can be a good thing as long as it's kind of smooth, if that makes sense.
Sure. So maybe add some more like transitional elements.
Yeah, but really good idea. It's real good pop sensibility, good melody. That you're right where you need to be for this kind of writing. You just keep writing. A couple of things to consider for this area that you're in. Think about everything being a hook. I mean, we're definitely in a music period where even that intro, the musical intro, you want something the listener can come away singing or humming or. Right now it kind of floated, had a little bit of that, but I'd look for more of that if I was a publisher or an artist. So that right off the bat I get something, like Maroon 5 is fantastic for that kind of thing. The song starts and there's a hook and then there's another hook, and there are a lot of hooks in those songs. Yours is headed there. I mean, there were in my mind, three complete sections there that were pretty cool. So yeah, well done. I like that.
Thank you.
The other thing I was going to mention, probably for all of us today, is in any kind of music you're writing, but especially pop music, and especially country and pop music, I would say, the importance of the title. A lot of writers will write a song, especially starting out writers, me included, and you're happy to just be able to have, got a song written. But if you can start from a really good title, the odds go up of it being, catching someone's ear, especially publishers and artists. I'll give you a very quick example. It was back to, we were talking about water earlier, or Wayne. So I was on a panel there one time, and it was a lot of songwriters and a lot of music production people, all sorts of people. And somebody raised their hand with this panel and said, what do you look, what's the importance of a title? Does a title matter? And one of the publishers on the panel said, I'll give you an example. He said, in my office on Music Row in Nashville, he said, might be, 50 either, emails with one track in them or even CDs with one track. And he said, my time is really limited. And he said, if I look across the desk and there's a song that says, I love you a lot, and this is his example. He said, and I look across my desk and there's one called, I killed my husband with his own axe. He said, which one do you think I'm going to spend a minute playing? And everybody in the audience raised their hands and said, this sucks. Suppose my love song is really a great love song. And he went, I may not hear it. If I don't know you as a writer and you're a new writer or a new artist, give me a title that makes me go, I want to see what you did here. So all to say, you don't want to write gimmick songs necessarily, but titles are important, especially for beginning writers and beginning artists. And one way, there's many ways you can do these things as homework, guys, but going to the library, going to bookstores, movies and TV, keep something to write with all the time. Because you hear something come up and just make sure you get it down somewhere. And then keep it in a list. I mean, over the years, I've had a list that there might be 200 lines on it at a given time. And they're just things I found in bookstores and conversation. Those things are gold, because if they caught your ear and you start writing a song based on one of those things that was kind of caught your ear in the first place, the odds go up with it being interesting. Rather than, it's, a lot of us write introspectively, you just write about what's on your heart and what's on your mind. But I will tell you, to do it as a career, if that's all you do, you're not going to write many songs. Because if I'm writing for my life, I'm not that interesting. So, I've got to find things to write about to do this as a career. So I would highly recommend it. Keep that running list. And as that list gets bigger of lines and titles, keep it where you write. If you play on guitar or keyboards or just sing, whatever, keep that list around you. Because those things will inspire you to write more songs. Okay? Anyway, good job. That's good.
All right, well, let's go to Zayla's Exhale.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you tell me anything about the song?
Yeah, so I wrote this in the middle of the semester when I was feeling really overwhelmed, and I felt like a lot of people were getting mad at me. Originally it started out as more acoustic singer-songwriter, because that's kind of my personal style, but I was working with Adam, and he kind of turned it more into a pop song with the instrumentals and backup vocals.
Okay. What's it called?
Exhale.
I'm going to close my door as we're listening, but go ahead, Ron.
Some days I don't think I'm right. It's a little more
demos where the writers are actually singing and stuff. I had a feeling it probably was you. That's good. Couple of things. Something you did that I love is you repeated exhale. I mean, repetition for songwriters, any genre, is a good idea. So I could remember that chorus real easy, and I could remember the title when I heard it. Something we should talk about for a minute, guys, is there was a study done a long time ago about how the average listener learns a song. You guys are songwriters and musicians, but this is about the people who are not songwriters and musicians, and those are the people you need to reach, right? So those people, when they did this study, they found that people learn the chorus melody first, then they learn the title, then they learn to sing the chorus, and they may never do any more than that. Most people don't. You know, somebody in the car is going to be quick to, you know, on their steering wheel probably just learn the chorus, and then they're going to play another song. So that chorus has got to be memorable. It needs to be usually simple, repetitive. All those things are good. You know, they could sound like bad ideas, but they're good ideas. Repetition, like the way you said exhale a few times, is really good. So that if I'm in the car hearing that song, I can sing that chorus. I remember it's called Exhale because you repeated it in the chorus. And the chorus wasn't too busy. So these are a couple of structure things I can throw at you guys that are good for your writing. And that is almost any kind of song you're writing. If it's a story, especially like yours, to me that's a story song. It's, you know, it's coming from you, from your life, I imagine. The details in your story belong in the verses and a bridge if you use one. That's the story. When you get to the chorus, that needs to be the big, best way I ever heard it is the big fat idea. It's like, it's got to sum up the song. It can't be a story. Beginning writers, a lot of times I'll hear a chorus and it just keeps telling me story, and it's too much to remember. It's, you know, the songwriter knows it, but the guy or the girl in the car is not going to follow all that information. So, song, a little thought to, like, you know, tell your story in the verses and make sure that chorus is, and yours was pretty darn good really for this. Make sure it repeats, get that title placement really good so that someone can go away and go, hey, I heard this song, Exhale, and they can sing a little bit of it to somebody. You're on your way to, like, hit songs with those elements. But well done.
Thank you.
Okay, Ronny. We're going to do Slow Down by Ronny Jackson.
Okay. Who's Ronny?
To run.
He can, you gotta turn the lights
Or
on.
Demetria?
You can do this.
Oh, you're what?
You can take my seat.
Yeah, go ahead. Switch over.
Yeah, fun.
Took up by Duran or Ronny? Okay.
This is, you know what, guys, it reminds me of if I'm laughing a little bit, like when you sat down, publishing meetings are the hardest thing in the world because you do this. And you end up right in the chair in front of somebody. I'd rather be set on fire. Because you're watching every reaction, you know, and if the phone rings or something, or they go, excuse me a minute, you're like, oh no, you know. It's definitely the hot seat. But we'll be kind. Anything about this one?
So yeah, when I started writing this, I didn't really have a vision for it. I just kind of like hopped on my TCL account and sang some melodies. Sang some melodies first, and then I was able to write around the song that way. And I think I made something cool out of it.
So you're a lyricist as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Great. Let's hear it.
Try that one more time.
You spend so much time worried about the obvious. Slow down, slow down. I'm just glad you're on with me. Remember when you were a stranger? The day I met you, girl, it was a game changer. You're special.
well?
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Thanks.
Really good. You know that little instrumental hook you got in the chorus, whatever that was?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Those things are like, ear candy, basically. You kind of get into a song, and all of a sudden you hear those things. Sometimes you remember as a listener those things more than you do other things in the song. How do I put it? One thing to be concerned about sometimes in a song like that is if I said it feels linear,
Yeah.
it's a different kind of song. It's not meant to be a big pop song, big chorus pop song. To me, it's a bit more R&B.
Right.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So it works for that, and the little ear candy thing I mentioned works really well. So then it's just a question of writing songs like that. How hooky are they? And are they different?
Right.
Is there something in there? Because the last thing you'd want when we kid about this hot seat thing, if you're sitting in front of me and I'm a publisher and I've been in your seat before, and the publisher goes, "That's nice." Nice is a kiss on the cheek,
Right.
It is not what you want from a publishing meeting.
Yeah.
So what you got right now is good, better
Thank you.
than nice.
Thank you.
But in your continuing writing, keep looking for those little sub hooks like the instrumental you did. Consider the idea itself, the title. I mean, you got the title in there all the time. It was great. Repetition, everything we were talking about, you did.
Thank you.
So all that's just keep writing. I'm really pleased with what I'm hearing.
Thank you.
Way better than a lot of workshop things I sit in. So you guys have got a handle on contemporary writing, which is really good. Well done.
Miles Jenna.
Hello.
Can you tell me a bit about the song, please?
Yeah. So we're playing Step Up, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was listening to a lot of Chance the Rapper and YBN Corday, who are rappers, and I tried to make like a chill, like laid back R&B, like hip hop rap type song, and then it gradually just sped up into this song, which is just basically I'm writing it about my bandmate and like best friend who hates his job at an IT company, and kind of trying to get him out of the dumps. I guess that's what this song's about.
Good. What's it called?
Step Up.
It seems like the rain falls down just a little bit harder every time you step outside and close your eyes and pray for a little bit of sunshine. It seems like the day's getting shorter and shorter, even in the summertime. Oh, the ice cream dream of a kid 16 is buried down deep inside. But I think you're gonna be alright. Maybe just give it a try. 2, 3, 4. Step up, kid. You're gonna get there soon. Chin up, kid. You're gonna make it soon. Step up, kid. You're gonna get there soon. Chin up, kid. You're gonna make it soon. Oh. You told me if it keeps up.
Okay. You guys have got a good handle on kind of a start of contemporary writing. To me, that's like Jason Mraz material, that kind of,
Nice.
which I love. I mean, it's got a great sort of, publishers would look at that as like a summertime song, those kind of things. Really good production, that thing would be working.
Yeah.
Couple lyrics like Ice Cream Dreams and things, those are good. Anywhere you can get those things that are just little, again, they're almost like ear candy lyrics. They just stick in your head,
Sure.
Did you write it? Did you write the lyric based on kind of like the way you would actually talk to your friend, conversation?
No, not really. I don't think.
Consider that sometimes,
Okay.
because sometimes as lyricists, we get real fussy and we think, okay, here, the story's in my head, like in your case, it's about your friend and his job, wanting to cheer him up. So if it were me writing this, I'm probably going to, before I wrote any lyric at all, I'm going to start writing this freehand real stuff. Like, where does he work? What's his boss's name? I'm going to write down real details.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try to put them in the song first. There's a real Nashville phrase that the real stuff is the good stuff.
Mm.
And it's pretty true. I mean, don't think that if you mention his where he really works, and his real job, his boss's name, don't think that people wouldn't get the song because they don't know those people or the place. It's absolutely the opposite. Think real detail, color, and the listener will get a real picture of like his job environment. They'll start to picture the boss based on the name you used, and they'll think of their own version of the story. If you make it too general, everyone's left to kind of have to imagine the scene and the people and the story. So yeah, it's a big, especially starting out writing, it's a big misnomer basically that if you should write general and not specific. I think you should write specific and not general, definitely. And then if there's too much of that stuff in there, you can always take some out. But you want a listener again to see what the story that you have in your head. So, and the best way you do that is getting it right from your head to the paper. What's the guy's name? What day of the week is it? If you're writing about a date, for instance, and this goes for any song you guys would do, you're way better off talking about, the name of a restaurant you went to, the time of day, what was the day like, if it's a first date, what was the color of her hair, real stuff, because someone will see your little mini movie, and then they're and a really good song happens when somebody sees your little mini movie and they imagine their own, and then they're connected to your song. I'm sure you guys have favorite songs like that take you somewhere, and it's usually your somewhere in the end, based on them telling their story really well. So, long-winded way of saying, I would pay attention to some of those things, but that was really well done. That's current fun pop.
Thank you.
Cory's song For You.
Yeah. Hey, Cory.
Hi.
Welcome to the hot seat.
Yeah, it's very warm.
Can you tell me anything about the song?
Yeah, so I wrote this kind of, I was sitting on the instrumental and the melody, and I had to assign lyrics to it, and it's been kind of a rough semester for me, so I kind of tried to implore that with my lyrics. It's basically kind of like somebody explaining, I'm having a real rough time, and this is to someone else that cares about them. They're like, I'm having a really rough time, and I know things are kind of not looking so good, but it's gonna be okay. And we actually, this is the one I recorded a music video for one of our projects, and I kind of portrayed that. What I did was it was me in the video, and I recorded myself practicing and doing some homework, and then it's a real rough day, and I come home and there's my cat waiting on me at home. So it's the silver lining kind of is what I'm going for with that.
Hey, you know what? You raise a really good point for us to talk about just for a second, and that is not only songs that are relatable, that's a relatable idea, and so was the last one we just heard. People having trouble at work, all those kind of things. People can relate to those ideas, and songs that are relatable are a lot more likely to be hits. And also songs that leave a little bit of hope. Singer-songwriters sometimes starting out can tend to write songs that are pretty, you may want to kill yourself when it's over, kind of song. But I have a friend who's a terrific Nashville writer, Kai Fleming, who's in the Hall of Fame. She's fantastic. And early on in writing with her, she used to say, make sure you leave hope. Take any idea, no matter how dire, dark, whatever it is, just leave some hope in it somewhere. So, yeah, maybe the cat is your hope. What do you describe? Okay, let's listen.
Why is it so damn important for you to talk to me? I just wanna stay in the moment. What do you want from me? Standing on warm-wood comforts, I'm right where I want to be. Is that why I brought you with me on my heart's balcony? But you can't stay while I wipe my tears on my sleeve. Right next to my heart, I really hate to keep you here while I sort this out. But I'm trying real hard to give me to you. To you, you, to you. To you, you, to you. I can give you too many details.
Couple of things. You know what it reminds me of in spirit, and this may be totally left field to you, but sort of the 80s UK bands has that feel to me. But also more like, you know, the Killers or Franz Ferdinand or one of those sorts of bands could produce that and make it work, you know. I really like the cadence that you use, the melody cadence, you know, I mean, the rhythm of your melody, and the general idea. Only thing I might suggest to you is I was waiting for that chorus to lift, because it felt like a song to me that was gonna finally go up, and it kind of went down, and kind of stayed down. So, in pop songs, especially a song like this sort of genre, I wouldn't be very subtle. I mean, I'd do everything you did right up to where that chorus hit, and see, and that up. And bringing it up can mean anything from singing it an octave up to changing the chord change. But you want to, for the most part, with most songs that you guys are writing and that I'm writing, you call a chorus a lift sometimes because it really should lift up out of everything that's been going on, you know. So I would go take a look at that with that in mind, see if there's something you can lift in that chorus. But I like where it's going. And it did have like a retro feel to me. Maybe it's because of the synth idea, you know, the eighth note thing. But it's funny, I was just in England for a while doing a workshop, and two of the people that had buildings in the same building were from that English 80s era. You Turn Me Right Round, that song. The guys that wrote that were there. It was definitely that era of eighth note synth pop, you know, do 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 do. And I love it. Yeah, well done. Yeah.
Miles McGuire, story time.
Hello, sir.
Welcome to the hot seat. It won't be hot. Tell me about the song.
Yeah, it's kind of corny. It was about this place I worked at in the summer. It was like a neighborhood committee type thing in downtown Indianapolis. We had this event where all these elderly people came and told their stories about the neighborhood and the city and stuff, and it was a cool, like, uplifting kind of event. So this is the first thing that came to my mind with this song, and I kind of wanted to write about that, write about the power of storytelling and all that stuff. But
you know what? I'm looking forward to hearing this because storytelling for a songwriter is huge. I mean, people get the point from stories more than they get from, you know, me just telling you something. Like we talked about a minute ago, you know, showing, not telling, color, detail, real stuff. Storytelling is huge. If I do workshops, for instance, if I get feedback later on, it's always the stories that impact writers more than it does going, hey, try to do this and all these tools, you know. They remember a story that illustrates a feeling. think we all do. So yeah, let's play it.
So long, memories of yesterday are long gone. Gotta bring them back, it's up to someone to share that story with the world. Time flies, looking at the future with our past eyes. Everybody's story will be our guide, a chance to use all that we learned. This city's full of people who got something to bring. Just bring yourself around and let your voices ring. Gather round, take your mind off your worries and doubt. Gather round as we find out what we're all about. Gather round and listen to stories of love and laughter, joy and cheer. Gather round, it makes us better somehow. Oh yeah. Yeah, here we go. All about story.
Is that you playing and singing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got some music theory going on, huh?
Just a little bit.
It's good, really good melodies. Love the chorus idea, gather around, really nice. If I had to make a suggestion to take another look at it, it might be, I made a note when you started talking about people telling their stories, you know? Did you actually hear some real stories?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, kind of go into that a little bit in the second verse, but there were some specific ones. Yeah.
I do even more of it. It plays into the idea that we were talking about a minute ago of like, you know, the stories in your verses. Like I was waiting almost to hear like, you know, again, think small. Like if one person told you the story and that was a verse, you know, Mr. Johnson used to own the something cleaners. You know, you start telling these real details and people get an idea of you know, what's in your head, the story that you've got, or they've got. And then your chorus, just like it was, would be great. You'd be saying, gather around and tell these stories. But I guess my point would be, Miles, think about telling the stories in the verses.
That makes sense, yeah. Huh, thank you.
It gets really colorful that way, you know?
Yeah.
But well done and sophisticated changes and melody. I liked it. Good one.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You're so in trouble.
Christopher, you want to jump right in here? We saved the chair for right here.
Okay.
We're going to go back to Christopher's song, When I Was a Boy.
This is a demo.
Cory,
It's so annoying. Yeah, for real.
what can you tell us about the song?
So I think the first song was like a country song, so I wanted to do something that was kind of like nostalgic and reflective of like your younger years. So I kind of just tried to emulate that in this song. I don't know, it was my first song, so like I just kind of went for it.
This first song you've written?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, did you use your own life? Did you tell your own story?
There was inspiration from it, but it's, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I could say that. Not anything specific, but just general things that happen in probably most people's lives, so.
Yeah. We were, I think before you came in, we were talking about being specific in your lyrics is a really good thing. That's why I'd be curious to see how much of yourself you put in it. Because it's a good thing to do. I mean, put yourself in it first. And then people can relate to. You know. Now let's hear it.
Already feel like I'm getting old. Those years just seem so long ago. How can one tell what the future holds? Just a kid, I was too young to know. When I was a boy, when I was a boy, a little older, climbing trees, home at dark, scuffs on my knees. Never thought of what could be. Too busy dreaming, wondering who I'd be. When I was a boy, when I was a boy.
Yeah. Can't believe that's your first song. That's pretty amazing. That's well done. I love that chorus melody. When I was a boy, just that simple. All the more reason I'd probably go back and look at the verses again and see if you can tell more story. Because it would get really, really interesting. You could put as much detail in there as you could stand. And then you hit that chorus, it just goes, it's reflective, just going, all that happened when I was a boy. It would make that chorus even more powerful. I mean, to me, it's like, you know, Ed Sheeran does this kind of thing, Coldplay, where they tell a story throughout, and the chorus is just real simple, which good choruses are. I can remember that chorus like immediately. And that's as simple as you can make a chorus. It's just the title, you know, but that's good. But not even a but. I would just say when you do that, when you do what you did, make sure there's a lot of story there, so that it really pays off. You look back at all these things in your lyric that happened, and you just say, when I was a boy, you know, all this happened. And if you're thinking, did you mention country? I mean, are you thinking of this as country?
It was, yeah.
Something I would, you know, we haven't talked about today, but let's talk about it for a minute. So if there's a genre you're writing for, like country or pop or whatever it is right now, do a lot of deconstruction. Even if your aim is not to be like a famous songwriter or rich anything, you just want to rock good songs. Pay attention to, like, especially if commerciality is your goal. Pay attention to what's being on the radio and country right now, and actually pick a couple. Like, I still do this. I'll pick a song and deconstruct it like 3 ways. I'll take, you know, I'll go old school and do this. Take a pad and a pencil and go, what's going on in this lyric? They did this, they did this, they did this, they did this. What's going on in the melody? It went here, went there. And then finally, what's going on in the structure and production. And that's a huge help in commercial writing. Because if you listen to country right now, the top 5, you're not going to hear a song like that song that you just wrote. So if your aim is commercial, you think, okay, what can I take away from songs that are hits right now? Because that song could be turned into a country possible hit with country type story lyrics, you know. And deconstruction, I've been doing this as long as I've been a musician, and it started with dropping a needle on vinyl, and it ended up being whatever it is these days. But that's how it gets in your DNA. You know, you subconsciously start to go, okay, that song that I heard, that Ed Sheeran song, moved this way. He talked about this. When it got to the chorus, it was simple. All that stuff will just kick your writing out. But, I mean, what I will say is that's really well done for your first song. That's pretty astounding. It's great. Good one.
Okay, Luca. Me? Yeah. So, let's let Luca sit down. This is called the so-called hot seat.
Oh, okay, I see.
So this is Mark, we got into the end, and I have 2 songs down by Luca because he's also did songwriting for his senior capstone project. So he's kind of working on both things. So let me have you tell him first about the songwriting challenge and how it started from a song a day to how it evolved.
Hello.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. So for my capstone, I did a songwriting challenge where I wrote. I tried to write a song a week for the whole semester, and a lot of songs came out of that, especially for this class. And it was really interesting. It was it was cool to see how it could be formulaic and you start to kind of get into a system. So yeah, it was cool.
That's I was mentioning workshops that I've done. The one I just did in Sheffield, England, was the writers had to go in, and it was set up completely like a pro songwriting thing would be for you. If a publisher sent you into this situation, there was a track guy in each room, there was an artist for you to talk to, and then you had till the end of the day to write the song and to demo it.
Right, okay.
So that's a task, man. Doing one a week is enough of a task.
Yeah.
But that prepares you down the road for this for your goal, It prepares you, those tools you probably came across this. You start to get tools, and it gets a little easier. You think, okay, I got to narrow this down, because I only have a week.
Yeah.
And that just came from, you got a day.
Yeah.
Putting lunch and dinner and everything else. So you really have to go, I can't think of every idea I've ever had in the world. I've got to go, let's write right here. That's where I can't stress enough the idea of looking for lines and titles. That will save you. Even if I were writing one a week, I'm sure going to look at that list of lines I found whenever I found them, because I don't have anything to say by week 3. If it's all about me, I'm done after week 1 probably. So I need something to look at, something to write from, something to imagine. So anyway, let's hear it.
One more thing. Tell them about your approach of coming up with dummy lyrics based on vowel sounds.
So like the way I write lyrics. So I write lyrics I'll first just kind of it'll just sort of be gibberish. It'll be sort of random words, but the vowels will work. And then you sort of work around those words. Sometimes those original scratch lyrics stay in the final version, not often. But the vowels will sort of remain, so you'll try to find vowels.
That's really that's smart songwriting. That's songwriting that I do, and I know a lot of other writers do.
Yeah.
Vowel sounds are big because you can stretch them.
Yeah.
They're singable. I have a couple of co-writers in my life that I've done the best with. One is somebody I just brought up, Kai Fleming, who's a female lyricist in Nashville. Wrote Like I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool, all these big classic country songs. And when we write, I write lyrics, but in her case I would write music because she's a lyricist. And she would insist that I send her the roughest tape based on what you're talking about. With me just going, big vowel sounds, just throw a word in here and there.
Right.
And she would always use the words. If I sang, it's a beautiful day and this is a lot of crap.
Right.
Crap would show up in the lyric. And so she liked to have those dummy, basically placeholder sound words. That's really valuable for a lyricist, or even, writing it yourself. But that's a great tool. Great tool. Get you going, and it's placeholders in my mind. Then you go back and go, probably the most famous one of those was Yesterday, the Paul McCartney song, the most recorded song ever. It was called Scrambled Eggs for about a year. Scrambled eggs, the title. And one day he went, Yesterday, I had that dummy lyric forever.
Yeah.
And those help you, it's placeholder.
Yeah.
And then you just have to replace it with something good. Yeah. Well, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay, so let's do High Tide.
Okay.
Yeah, I was sleeping instead of weeping. so self-assertive. You had your reasons. I see it evident what I suspected bleeding. Maybe this is gonna be bad. 30,000 feet above the weather. My world is wrapped in blankets. Staring out my window, I've been thinking. Told myself to the edge of the line. Left myself to your good graces. I don't know when or if I can trust all these manic maybes. Mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs, mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs, yeah, I'll be honest. I've been complacent.
Can we just let it
The
play?
change of
Play.
season had me question, left me swaying. I'm feeling heavy, with bags buried, and you've a future with somebody ordinary. Maybe this is gonna be bad. 30,000 feet above the weather. My world is wrapped in blankets. Staring out my window, I've been thinking. Told myself to the edge of the line. Left myself to your good graces. I don't know when or if I can trust all these manic maybes. Mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs, mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs, mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs, mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs. I went around again until I figured you out. I'm done with working on myself. I think I'm working you out of my life. 'Cause I'm tired of living a life with a bad apart from the start. Goodbye. Mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs, mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs, mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs, mama, it's high time. Self-exposure, mama, it's high time. Telltale signs. Hold up a minute, I noticed something's different. You're off my mind, off my mind. Hold up a minute, I noticed something's different. You're off my mind, off my mind. Hold up a minute, I noticed something's different. You're off my mind, off my mind. Hold up a minute, I noticed something's different. You're off my mind, off my mind.
Yeah. That's terrific.
Much needed.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. A couple of things I could talk about, but I mean, it's just to make some points, but I mean, that could be a hit song, right production. I love her voice.
Yeah, that's
Love her voice.
that's my sister. She has a better voice than me. So.
Keep that sister. She's really good. You both are. That is excellent, man. It's a great vibe to it. So you're going for an artist thing, right? Is it the two of you together?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a smart move. I mean, if we were talking about pitching that song, there's a couple of things I might suggest, but if you're not talking about pitching it, if you're pitching you guys as the artist, her as that singer, it's a really good vehicle for you. Two things I might say. The more I'm thinking about it, I probably should say. I would want to get to that chorus earlier, because because it's so good. I mean, it was a great vibe getting there, and I was about ready for it to get there earlier. And I had played all these songs one time, so as we got there, I thought, I remember this chorus. Took me a bit to get there. Something you can do is sort of trust the folks around you, like the people in the class, friends. I do this still with my wife all the time. If I'm writing something, I might go, okay, I'm going to give you two different things. I'm going to give you the lyric, go away, come back later and tell me what this is about. That's always a good test.
Yeah.
To see whether your lyric is pretty clear, good, and interesting. Because she'll come back once in a while and go, I think it's about love or a cat, or all of a sudden this happened. I'm like, no. It was supposed to be this. You know, do the same arrangement-wise. If you have people you trust that are musicians around you, like I coach writers all the time, and I don't go. I put the chorus right there. Come on, move the chorus up. You know, because as we talked about a little bit ago, people get that chorus first, and maybe all they get.
Yeah.
So if you tease them and tease them and tease them, it's like, you know, they may change the channel in the car. So anytime you get that chorus, and that's a great chorus. It's just, I have a publisher that butter, and it's just like butter, just went, just smooth as it could be. Great. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, but think about choruses. Get them in as quick as you can. Diane Warren is a famous songwriter. Her motto is, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus."
Right.
That's her motto ever, you know. So try it anyway. Move it up and see if it works for you.
Yep.
And the other thing that you know, the way the song went out kind of lost me. But again, if it's an artist thing, if it were your album, it's a vibe, you know.
Yeah.
But from a commercial standpoint, I just want until it fades, you know. So yeah, but really, really good, really good.
Thank you.
So the reason I wanted to play that through the end was that's a different version than what the class had heard. And also they haven't heard the second song, September 28th. So this would be the last song, so we can also play it to the end.
Yeah, okay.
So why don't you tell them what this one's about?
This one is just about, so, I mean, it's kind of a basic message, but it's just sort of this, I'm leaving college really soon, so I graduate in a few days, and it's just sort of about growing up and not wanting to grow up, and, you know, just moving different stages in your life, so, yeah, just a little bit sad. But,
It's your life.
yeah.
What are you going to do when you leave?
So the goal is, so it's going to have to like, I'm sort of working through it, but the goal is so my sister is already out in California, so I'm going to try to join her, and we'll try to just do this for a while, and see if we can make it, yeah, so we're trying to, we want to be like artists.
Yeah, I totally relate to all that. Did it as, you know, when I was younger, and LA's a great place to be. I lived there for years. I would urge you, I was talking to Robert before everybody showed up today a little bit about the path for someone, you know, with somebody like you and your sister right now. Social media, you know, is huge for helping you.
Yeah.
But we're getting back in an environment. I was just in London, for instance, where people want to hear people play live, really, more than the past few years. So if a publisher were interested in you, or even a label or anybody, you know, they're going to want to see the two of you out in clubs in LA, and there are a million of them.
Yeah.
But I would, you know, you may be planning on that, but I'm really going to urge you to have a balance between YouTube and Facebook and every other social media platform for your music, as opposed to playing live. Playing live is huge.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you guys could really sell yourself live.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah.
Cool. All right.
Pretty close.
Share the next piece.
I was paid
guys are doing together is gorgeous. Go forth and multiply in LA. Really, wish you a lot of luck, man. It's very good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good lyric writing. There are some wonderful lines in there. Really wonderful. Something to think about. And feel free to disagree. But what was it called, the title?
September 28th.
Okay. That's not in the song at all, is it?
No. That's just my birthday.
There's somewhere where, and I've done this too, I would just question it because it could mean a lot to you to use that title.
Yeah.
But we're all writing for a listener. Even being an artist, you're trying to connect with a listener, right? And that listener doesn't know the subject as well as you do. And if they can't go away remembering, like I would call this I Don't Want to Grow Up, or Grow Up, or the Grow Up song, or something based on that great hook.
Yeah.
It's almost like you got a great hook and you're going to throw them a curve by going, it's called 28th of September. And they go, I can't remember that, So, there are artists that go, I'm going to call it whatever I want, and there's an example of a song that was a hit that wasn't in the chorus. There are not many of them, though. I mean, in a heartbeat, I would change that title to something about I Want to Grow Up.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Really, Robert and I talked for a minute, again, before you guys got here, about the difference between writing artist songs and for artists. So my career has been starting as an artist, but then all of these years after have been writing for artists. So the songs that you played today sound like artist songs to me. And they are a different animal, because you can kind of say whatever you want, and it's a lot about the setting and the voice and stuff as opposed to writing directly for an artist.
Yeah.
But it's a long topic to cover, but just to say, give it some consideration, all of you guys, as you write songs. Do you want to write for yourself as an artist? Do you want to write for existing artists? If it's for existing artists, there's a whole another part to your journey here, of like whether it's relatable, whether you can actually envision an artist singing the words that you wrote, for instance. You run into that a lot in Nashville. Publishers, I've played songs for publishers, and they might go, well, this is great, but who do you think will sing it? Because it's about a guy who's probably 40. So that eliminates 2/3 of the current country singers. They think like that, publishers. So, and again, it's not the path you're on, I don't think. You're an artist path, so you can write what you want, do what you want. But for most people, like the rest of you maybe, or many of you, consider an artist really doing your song, and whether it makes perfect sense for an artist. Well done, guys. Yeah, I do a lot of little workshops, and you guys are, across the board better than a lot of the ones I've done, especially the guy with the first time song. I'm just going like, wow. So whatever you're getting there is doing well. It's really good. So applaud yourselves.
I enjoyed your session at GearFest. In there you mentioned how you prepared to write, one technique you used for preparing to write for other songs, for Tina Turner. How would you just stretch yourself? Say you didn't have any gigs right now and you were trying to develop your ability to write for a variety of different artists.
That's an easy one. What I always did, before anybody asked me to write a song, which was for a long time, I would pretend to have an assignment. So let's say if I'm you guys and I go, okay, I'm going to pretend that Beyonce wants a song from me and she wants it in a week. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull out every Beyonce song I can find. I'm going to make notes about the key she sings in, for instance. All the elements that go into those hits of hers. What's going on? What does she tend to talk about? What key does she tend to sing in, or keys? What's the production like? I'm gonna deconstruct, again, that word deconstruct. I'm gonna deconstruct the things that artist does, get them in my own head, and start to write from there. Only thing I can say that's different about that is I wrote for a lot of big artists in one era. And a lot of times, the bigger they were, they didn't want to repeat themselves. So everything I just told you, for instance, Tina Turner, the story that he's talking about, at the time I was writing for the greatest hits, and she was the biggest artist in the world, and I wrote what I thought sounded like her next hit based on everything I heard. It didn't get there. Like one after another, I would get the song on hold. So the producer, everybody said we're in. The artist would come in and go, no, I've already done that. And you're going like, well, then what do I do? You know, it's an unknown thing, but the very best thing you can do is to deconstruct and get in the right area anyway. Because if you say something that artist wouldn't say, you write it in a key they wouldn't sing in, the odds get longer of them listening to you. But my big point, guys, is do all that and then put yourself in it. So the end of the story for me was she's the biggest artist at the time. I keep writing these songs and keep getting on hold. She doesn't do them. And finally, with a couple of other co-writers, we wrote a song that we all loved, the co-writers. Another point I would make for you, make sure you love your own music before it gets out your door. So we wrote one that we went, we don't care if anybody loves it. We don't know what it is. It's an orphan, it was an odd song, different song. An artist type song. We wrote what we wanted to write and kind of thumbed our nose at everybody else and went, we're just writing this. It got to Tina Turner, she did it, and the album sold 6 million. It's behind me. Because you can't tell. She got it and went, this is something I've never done. I want to go down this road. She based the album on it. We all went like, well, there's a lesson, So I'm telling you two things that sound like they clash, but they don't. One is do a lot of homework if you're writing for artists, or for the radio, for that matter. But then you got to put yourself in it. You got to do something that only you can come up with. Something that's unique about you. That's your best bet, because the lesson I learned, I was writing clone songs. They were good. Another artist sometimes did them, not the one I was shooting for. But a real artist, a really, really good artist, wants to reinvent themselves constantly. And if you've got something that can help them reinvent themselves, it's going to be huge. I mean, that gets pretty exciting. And, sort of the prologue of that is the two writers I wrote that with, we used to write a lot together. We started writing a different way. When she did that song, we said, okay, game on. We're going to write different. We're going to write whatever we want to write and send it to the artists and see what happens. And we got Joe Cocker, all these artists who were the artists of the day, did songs that did not sound like they were written for them. So again, I'm telling you two things that are so different. Write for them, write for the radio, but you got to put in some ingredient that only you know what it is. So, yeah.
How do you send your song to somebody?
Well, this is the hard part. For instance, Miles, right?
No, that was me asking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So if you're going, let's say you're going to LA, right? Nobody is going to take what they call unsolicited songs. The idea of sending a song or going in an office doesn't exist anymore. It used to, like when I was your age, it did. You could knock on a door, you could get in there. They've been sued for plagiarism so often, publishers and labels and artists, and you see all these plagiarism lawsuits. They're afraid to touch something from somebody they don't know. So your best bet is two things. One, to create traction through social media if you can. If you get a song that's on YouTube or any number of things that people can find it, labels and publishers are monitoring that stuff. If you created a big enough buzz that you can talk to them and go, look, this many people are loving this on YouTube. That helps. Definitely playing live, as I mentioned, has gotten bigger again. They would want to see you live. Because so many other elements go into the way money is made in music. Merchandising is probably number one. Ink is huge. Merchandising also huge. So you've got to be able to go out and do what you do live if you're an artist, right? So yeah, creating as much traction as you can is going to get you noticed. But don't, whatever you do, don't blindly send songs to people, to artists or labels or publishers, because it'll just, it's sad to say, but I've been in offices where you go, what's that bin over there that's full of, CDs or something? They go, that's where we throw them. They come in the mail and they go over there. unopened. And it's like, as a songwriter and artist, you go, oh man, that's not good news. So you got to find a way to get to them. And there are, it's more than we have time for, but there are many ways. Playing live, creating traction on social media wherever you can, two biggest ways by far. And probably, you're talking about jumping to LA. Those are the kind of moves you have to make if this is your career as an artist or a writer. You got to get, Nashville is probably the best place right now, I think. And that's why people are coming here every day. Because you got, if you got something to say, you want to say it in front of the people that matters. It's the competition. Judge, you see how well you're doing by getting in a place like London, LA, New York, Nashville, Atlanta, and you'll tell pretty quick.
I have a question. All right, so like, how important is it to like do what you can where you are? Like, for example, the Beatles starting in Liverpool and then leaving there, and Mike starting in Gary and then leaving there.
That's a great question, and it's huge. It's absolutely huge. In the book I'm telling you that I have out, there's a section called, of course I can't remember what it's called. It's about this idea of like creating as much noise in your backyard as you can, right? Because that's something that I should have mentioned. Yeah, that's a terrific tool, because if you say, I'm in Indianapolis, for instance, or I'm in Muncie, or anything, and I have this many followers, or I can go play a club and I can fill it. That stuff is huge for us. They're looking for you to do the work they used to do. Really is the way that it is right now. They'll look at you and go, okay, if you're creating some noise where you are, there's probably something good here. The thing that I love about it too is if you can do it, you can, Muncie or Indianapolis, again, great markets. Mellencamp started out as Seymour, and went out. Those kind of areas, because a label will look at that and go, okay, you've done a lot of the groundwork. You already have some audience. That used to be a label's job. They don't do it anymore. They'd rather you came in the door and went, hey, what can you do for me? Because I've already got a pretty good following in Indianapolis. I just need to branch out. So that's when labels get to be useful. They used to just hand you a check and do all the groundwork for you, including what they used to call A&R people, which is artist and repertoire. That person doesn't exist anymore, really. So they want you to come in the door fully formed. And the best way you can be fully formed is your question, is form where you are, make the mistakes where you are, grow the audience where you are, and then go look at what I got here. It's great. That's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another question?
Any other comments? Go ahead.
I have a question. Do you have any tips for like social media? Like you were talking about gaining traction on social media. Do you have any ideas for helping that?
Yeah, something I like is dead simple on Facebook always. Because Facebook to me seems to be, for songwriters especially, probably for artists as well, YouTube and Facebook, but Facebook has, I don't know if anyone belongs to songwriter groups on Facebook. If you went in, so you have, some of you have, if you go in there and not in Google, but on Facebook directly, you put in keywords, like singer-songwriter, Midwest singer-songwriter, guitarist, you'll find, you might find 200 groups you can join. Some of them will be a waste of your time. Others might be really good. For instance, for my coaching business and for my book, I belong to maybe 250 different groups around the world that I found through Facebook, just by putting in like UK singer-songwriter, New York City bass player, whatever it is, you put in this combo, and it'll turn up these groups, and then you begin to like be a community member. Like for me, I'll just give you an example in my world. For my coaching, I do regular blogs. Blog in every one of these groups. Just go, good to be here today. Here's some information I hope is helpful. For artists that I coach, I ask them to just put in a link to their website. Or here's one song I've just written. Love to hear what you guys think. Those communities, I have clients who have actually got songs cut through these, all different people who tune into some of these groups. You can look at a group and see that they have some of them have 15,000 members. some of the ones around the world. Those are not a waste of time. I mean, I still take that time and just treat it like a ritual. Maybe once a week I'll post something to all those groups I belong to, and then just keep moving. But do it regularly. You guys know these social media things, but do it regularly, consistently, and you can't just trumpet what you do. You have to sort of go, hey guys, I'm listening to songs on the site. Here's one of mine. Any suggestions? I'm in LA or I'm wherever I am. Those communities right now can be a huge help without you spending a dime. The other thing I might suggest to you is look at workshops around you. Not just mine, but I mean a lot of writers. There's a person named Judy Stakey who used to run Warner Chaplin run workshops. Like you and your sister, for instance, I would look her up in a heartbeat. Get in one of her workshops, let her see you, and see what you're doing. Because she broke Sheryl Crow, all sorts of people, Katy Perry. So now she's doing what I do in her own work, LA. Those kind of things for you can get you not around people who are really good at what you're trying to do and what you're trying to enter, but they might be able to do even more, like get you signed, all sorts of things. And they are a way, they all cost money, but at least it's money well spent, where you're in an environment where you're going to get better and you might get hurt. So yeah, workshops and anywhere you can find information, take it all in.
Questions? I've got one. Can you see me over here? Yep. Okay.
Yep.
So the only 3 songs I've only managed to write like 3 songs to completion in there for this class. So I feel like for me, if it's like a set goal where it's like this song needs to have X, Y, Z and it's due by this date, it's a little easier. But then when I write stuff for myself, it's like impossible. Like I can't put anything out. I can't think of anything. So like, what would you recommend to like kind of cure the blank page thing?
Absolutely, the thing we talked about earlier is my blank page help. Have a list of things. Go to bookstores, go to libraries, watch TV, watch movies, eavesdrop. I have a friend who writes a lot of songs what he calls evil eavesdropping, and he's incredibly successful. He writes country songs and he goes to Walmart, different Walmart around Nashville, and he listens to people talk, and he writes these things down. And when he told me this, I said, so you're a Walmart writer? He went, yeah, probably. For huge hits of his, it's Craig Wiseman is who it is. And he read it to me, and he looked up, and I went, Walmart? He went, Walmart? He read another one and said, no. He went, Walmart? So I just hung around eavesdropping, writing things down. But to your point, to do this as a profession, for me, I can definitely say, again, I'm not that interesting day to day. I've got to find things that I can look at and go, my imagination go here. And look at these titles. And matter of fact, I shouldn't call them titles. If I go to a bookstore, I'm going to wander up and down the aisles with my phone. And if something catches my eye, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to put it on my master list at home. And I'm going to put that master list wherever I write. So that on the day that I'm trying to write more and I have no ideas, I'm going to look over at that thing and see if it sparks something. I might have a guitar on, I'm just going to stare at that thing. Something else I would do if I were is totally get out of your comfort zone all the time you can. Like if you play a little bit of, do you play a little bit of guitar or piano or anything?
Yeah.
Well, don't be afraid to suck at something else. I mean, really, like I'll pick up a mandolin or something and I can't play, but I'll whittle around till I find something interesting, and that can be the basis of a song. I'm an okay guitar player, bass player, and stuff. But I've written more successful songs on keyboard, probably, and again, I suck. But I'm not afraid to sit down and find a voicing or find something that will be exciting to me because it sounds different and I don't know where I'm going. So if you can kind of, think like a kid, anything that gets you excited, gets you out of your rut, the worst thing is staring at a blank page. Something else I should tell you too, that I coach people about. It's usually the first thing I'll get them to do is create a ritual so that you don't go, I'm just going to wait around for, some kind of bolt of lightning today. create a ritual starting out that maybe is 2 hours long. And so you know you can show up. Like if I'm you, maybe I go Saturday morning from 8 to 10. It's my writing time. And I'm going to show up in the same place with my tools around me, my list of lines, whatever I've got. At the end of 2 hours, I'm going to quit. And I'm going to look forward to doing it again next Saturday. Or add another day if you can. And do other things that relate to songwriting in your other time. But put in those ritual hours. Because if you stare at a blank page all day long, it's real discouraging. If you look at it for 2 hours, not as bad. If you're looking for material to write about, and you can't wait to get a period, you're going to find it starts to get better and better. I mean, I still, even being signed to publishers over the years, did a ritual. I would usually quit. You know, I'm pretty much done by 2 most days. And I wouldn't write on the weekend. I didn't write at night unless it was a project I had to be there for. Because I realized early on that my best time was early morning. So I just devoted a ritual to that. I'd get up, like, very first thing, cup of coffee right into my studio. And I knew by lunchtime, a little later, I've probably done my best work. And I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to stop. There's no harm in stopping as far as, keeping your focus on the time that you do work. So long-winded way of saying, at this point where you are, create a ritual that's not too long and is totally doable for you. And focus during that time, quit when it's over, do it again next time.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
So there's a Justin Bieber song that the Pentatonics covered. I took a piece of that Pentatonics cover and put it in one of my songs, and I'm not really sure how to, what involves like getting that sample cleared, and really I even thought about just saying forget it and putting it out anyway, and like risk like just getting if they like hit me with the like sue you for the amount of money you made off this song. Like I'd rather like if it got to the point to where they like were suing me because of that, I'd much rather like give them the money from that song and just like take the exposure I got from the song itself.
Yeah, well, sure, there are a couple of ways to do that. One is the way you just said, that if it gets you noticed, keep moving, Try to be upfront about it and write to somebody and go, hey, I'm using a little bit of the song. And, if you're just starting out, someone might say to you, okay, put my name on it.
Yeah.
And then give me 10% of it, and we're good.
So should I just like, how do I like, do I just email them? Like, you know what I mean?
Look for the publisher.
Okay.
Look for the publisher of a song. You can wind your way down to finding some contact always by Google. You look at the label, you'll finally find a music supervisor if it's a movie or something.
Yeah.
You can find these people, and then you respectfully send them something,
Right.
or even email and go, "Can I send? I'm thinking of doing this. My song has a little bit of the song you publish in it. I just want to contact you and be upfront. What do we do here?" And if they don't respond at all, then at least you've got that ammo. You can go, hey, I tried.
Yeah.
But the worst thing that can happen as far as making money from music is to make money from music and then have it be debated later. And even in your writing world, guys, if you're co-writing, make sure you have that conversation right from the get-go of like how it's split. Because I've seen some real messes happen where someone goes, I assumed it was one way, somebody else assumed it was another way. The song gets cut, the potential for making money is there, and one of the writers comes back and goes, well, I think I own, 75%, don't you? And you're like, no, I don't. We were both in the room, it should be 50-50.
Yeah.
I would say across the board, when you guys get in a room, it should be 50-50 if it's 2 of you. Or split 3 ways if it's 3 of you. Unless you want to make a different understanding right off the bat. But my point is, do all these things ahead of time, or at the time, in the moment, so that it'll come back to bite you.
Yep.
Well, my battery says it's running out, and I think we're running out of time, so thank you so much, Mark.
More pleasure, guys. Well done. Appreciate it.
And you're going to be giving a workshop at Sweetwater next month?
I am on the 18th of January, so come if you can. Information's online at Sweetwater. And get the book. The book really does have good stuff we've talked about. Shameless plug, but it's full of what we're talking about. It's not just an instructional book. And best of luck to you guys. Well done. I mean, everything I heard was right on track. Good one.
Thanks so much and happy holidays.
All right, you too. Merry Christmas, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, thanks so much for coming today. I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck with the rest of your week, and happy holidays to you too.
What do you got? What do you got next?
He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Oh, next year.
Wait, you're supposed to play something?
I got away.
So is this conducting finish with school?
I'm glad you've got this, you've got next year, or whatever you got.
What's your German? So this semester?
Yeah.
It's alright.
Dude, I was sobbing. He actually was. I was full tears. No exaggeration. Dude, I was not ready for that song. That was beautiful.
If I was not in a room full of people, I would have.
Yeah, so good.
Guys,
It's really
y'all are
good.
so sweet. Oh my gosh.
And all that.
So
Yeah, thank you too.
Oh, so,
Yeah.
I don't want my laptop with me, so we can look at
That's how
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Yeah, that's fine.
When are you leaving?
Well, I mean, I have my house till the end of the
We
month.
should wrap up
But,
We should hang out
extension
sometime.
course.
Yeah.
Before we leave, because we never.
I was like,
Oh yeah.
hang out.
Oh, your shoes inside too.
Oh, hello. I'm gonna stop.